All right, let's dive in. Today we're tackling a question that's really got me thinking. What if, and just hear me out, what if the demolition and construction industry could be, well, just plain better?
A complete overhaul? That's ambitious.
Exactly. And we're not talking about little tweaks here and there. Our source material, the crack segment from the Breakfast show, goes all in on a total reimagining of the industry.
Ah, the Breakfast show. Those guys always get the conversation going.
Absolutely. And they've assembled a panel of industry veterans for this one. Folks like Gary Muirhead, Jim Turner, to name just a few.
So we're talking a real experience, people who've seen it all.
Oh, yeah, decades in the
Yeah.
industry. And it's Mark Anthony, the host, who throws out this series of what-if questions.
What if questions? Interesting. Sounds like a thought experiment.
More than that, it's about challenging the status quo, getting everyone to think outside the box about how this industry could be transformed.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example. What kind of what ifs are we talking about?
Well, one of the first things that jumps out is Mark Anthony's vision for a truly inclusive industry. I mean, imagine an industry where everyone feels valued, respected, regardless of their background, gender, race, anything.
That's a powerful vision.
Yeah.
But how does that translate to tangible benefits?
Well, that's what's so interesting. Mark Anthony doesn't just advocate for diversity because it's the right thing to do. He actually connects it to real-world outcomes, things like increased efficiency, a more harmonious work environment, and even a boost in innovation.
Sure, so it's not just about being politically correct. There's a strategic advantage to inclusivity.
Precisely. A diverse workforce brings a wider range of experiences, ideas, perspectives. If you've got people from all walks of life, they're going to approach problems differently.
Ah, so you're tapping into a wider pool of talent, a wider pool of solutions.
It's like having all these different puzzle pieces that finally fit together to create a stronger foundation for the industry.
I see. The whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts.
And think about it. We're always hearing about the shortage of skilled labor in construction. Maybe part of the solution lies in tapping into communities that have historically been overlooked or excluded.
Widening that net, casting a broader reach for talent. Makes sense.
And this ties in with something Jim Turner brings up during the crack. He talks about how kids are naturally drawn to hands-on skills, building things, figuring out how things work.
That's true. Kids love to tinker, to take things apart and put them back together. It's how they learn.
Exactly. But somewhere along the line, those natural inclinations get sidelined.
Pushed aside for the more academic pursuits.
Right. And Jim actually criticizes the education system for this. He says it's often run by folks who don't truly grasp the value of those practical skills.
So there's this disconnect between what's taught in schools and what's needed in the real world.
A big one. He even says something like, they're run by academic people that only understand academic skills.
Oh, he doesn't hold back.
Nope. And he goes on to say, they don't push practical skills because they don't understand it themselves.
A bold statement. Makes you wonder, what if we revamped our education system to better equip kids for these hands-on fields?
What if we presented those careers as viable, rewarding options from a young age, not just pushing everyone towards the traditional college route?
I like that, expanding the horizons of possibility.
Because right now, it's like we're telling kids there's only one way to succeed, when in reality, there are so many paths that lead to a fulfilling career.
And a career that makes a real difference contributes to building something tangible.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing the craftsmanship, the problem-solving abilities, the essential role these workers play in shaping our world. And that brings us to another crucial what-if that Mark Anthony brings up. What if project schedules were designed around worker well-being instead of those crazy deadlines?
Oh, now that's a radical shift. We're talking about a total reversal of how things are usually done.
Exactly. Instead of pushing workers to the limit, we prioritize their physical and mental health.
And how does that translate into real-world benefits?
Well, think about it. If workers are well-rested, not feeling constantly stressed and pressured, wouldn't they be more likely to produce better quality work?
Makes sense. A frazzled, overworked person is bound to make more mistakes.
Exactly. And those mistakes can lead to costly rework, delays, even safety hazards down the line.
So prioritizing well-being isn't just about being nice, it's a smart business move.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that a healthy, happy worker is a productive worker.
I like that. So how do we shift from this reactive approach to a proactive model where well-being is baked into the industry?
Well, Mark Anthony throws out some interesting ideas. He talks about things like regular physical checkups for workers, on-site physiotherapy, even counseling services tailored to the specific stresses of construction work.
Wow, that's a big investment in people.
And a smart one, it's like saying, we value you, we want you to be healthy, and we're willing to put resources behind that.
And I imagine that would have a ripple effect. If workers feel valued, cared for, wouldn't they be more likely to stick around, reduce turnover?
Exactly. You create a more loyal, more committed workforce, which ultimately benefits everyone.
So it all starts with that simple question: what if we put worker well-being first?
Okay, so we've talked about inclusivity, worker well-being. Let's dive into another big theme that emerges from the crack: transparency and honesty.
Oh, that's a good one. Construction can be a pretty secretive world sometimes.
Right. It's like admitting a mistake is seen as a sign of weakness instead of a chance to learn and grow.
And mistakes happen, especially in a field as complex as construction.
Exactly. But Mark Anthony throws out this radical idea. What if we embraced radical transparency? What if we openly discussed mistakes and near misses as learning opportunities?
Whoa, that's a big cultural shift.
Huge. But he argues that honesty is the foundation for a strong, resilient industry.
Because if people are afraid to speak up, problems are more likely to fester and become bigger.
Precisely. And he emphasizes the role of leaders in setting the tone. He talks about like a foreman on a site saying, hey, here's what went wrong and here's how we're going to fix it, leading by example.
That's powerful. It creates trust within a team.
Right. When you know your colleagues and leaders are being straight with you, even when it's tough, you build a stronger, more effective team.
And a safer team, I imagine. If people feel comfortable speaking up about safety concerns, it could prevent accidents.
Exactly. And that leads to another question Mark Anthony raises. What if we aimed for zero harm in the industry? The idea that every worker goes home safe every single day without exception.
Wow, that's an ambitious goal. But it gets to the heart of a major problem, doesn't it? That acceptance of risk as just part of the job.
Yeah, it's like we've become numb to the fact that people get hurt on construction sites.
And that's not okay. Every accident is preventable if we take the right precautions.
Absolutely. So what if we challenged that assumption? What if we said, no, zero harm is achievable?
I like that. It's a bold statement, a call to action.
Right. It's about putting safety front and center, not just as a slogan, but as a core value that drives every decision, every action.
And it's about demanding better, not just for ourselves, but for everyone in the industry.
Okay, so we've talked about inclusivity, worker well-being, transparency, and achieving zero harm. These are huge goals, and it's clear that achieving them will require a fundamental shift in how the industry operates.
A complete overhaul. But who's going to lead this charge? Who's going to be the champion for this new vision of the industry?
That's the million-dollar question. And that's where Mark Anthony throws out this intriguing analogy. He compares the demolition industry to the music industry, saying it's become a bit stale, stuck in its ways.
Oh, I see where he's going with this. He's looking for that disruptive force, that punk rock moment that's going to shake things up and inject some much-needed energy and innovation.
Exactly. He even asks, where's Demolition's Elon Musk?
Ooh, a visionary leader, someone who's not afraid to challenge the status quo, push the boundaries.
Exactly. Someone who sees the potential for this industry to be a force for positive change. And that brings us to a really interesting point about the power of collective action. Mark Anthony talks about the band Queen and how their individual talents were amplified when they came together, collaborated as a unit.
Strength in numbers, the power of a shared vision.
Right. But then he contrasts that with what he sees as a decline in the power of the National Federation of Demolition Contractors, the NFDC.
Oh, interesting. So is he suggesting that the NFDC has lost some of its clout, its ability to drive change?
That's the implication. He seems to be saying that the industry needs a strong, unified voice to advocate for these changes.
And that voice has become fragmented, lost in the noise of individual interests.
The industry is stuck in a rut, clinging to outdated ways of doing things. And he doesn't shy away from criticizing the NFDC for not being that disruptive force.
He's calling them out for not being bold enough, for not embracing the kind of radical change that he believes is necessary.
Exactly. He even goes so far as to say that the NFDC has lost its balls. He's clearly frustrated with what he sees as a lack of leadership and a reluctance to embrace change. But it's not just about industry organizations, right?
No, it's about individuals within the industry taking ownership, pushing for better.
Workers, managers, company owners, everyone stepping up and saying, we deserve better, we can do better.
It's about recognizing that we all have a role to play in shaping the future of this industry. And that brings us back to that fundamental question. What if? What if each of us, in our own way, started asking that question, challenging those assumptions, pushing for something better?
What if we stopped waiting for someone else to fix the industry and started taking ownership of the change we want to see?
That's a powerful thought. And it's something that I think resonates with a lot of people who work in this industry. There's a real sense of frustration, a feeling that things could be so much better.
And Mark Anthony's what if questions seem to be tapping into that frustration, giving voice to those aspirations for a more just, equitable, and sustainable industry.
He's not offering all the answers, but he's asking the right questions, the questions that could spark a movement for change.
And those questions are relevant not just to the demolition and construction industry, but to all of us, no matter what field we work in.
Absolutely. Whether we're talking about healthcare, education, technology, or any other field, the what if questions are powerful tools for challenging the status quo and imagining a better future.
They force us to step outside our comfort zones, to confront those deeply ingrained beliefs and assumptions, and to envision possibilities that might have seemed unimaginable before.
And in a world that often feels overwhelmed by problems and challenges, the what if questions offer a glimmer of hope, a reminder that we have the power to shape our own destiny.
It's about reclaiming that sense of agency, that belief that we can make a difference, even if it's just in our own small corner of the world.
Mark Anthony makes a really insightful point about how the demands and expectations of clients shape the industry.
Yeah, he observes that clients often prioritize speed and cost over everything else. It's all about getting the project done quickly and cheaply, even if it means compromises on safety, quality, or worker well-being.
It's that age-old tension, isn't it? The desire for the best possible outcome, but also the pressure to keep costs down and timelines tight.
It's a tough balance. And often it's the workers who end up bearing the brunt of those pressures.
Exactly. They're the ones who are asked to work longer hours, cut corners, push themselves to the limit.
So how do we break free from that cycle? How do we create a system where quality, safety, and worker well-being are valued as much as speed and cost?
Well, Mark Anthony proposes a pretty radical shift in thinking. He asks, what if we stopped asking, what's the cheapest way, and started asking, what's the right way?
Ooh, I like that. It's a subtle shift in language, but it has profound implications.
It challenges us to think beyond the bottom line, to consider the ethical and social implications of our choices.
What if we prioritize projects that were built sustainably, with a focus on worker well-being and long-term durability? What if clients were willing to pay a premium for projects that met those higher standards?
Now, that would send a powerful message to the market. It would signal that quality, safety, and sustainability truly matter.
And it would incentivize contractors to prioritize those values, knowing that clients are willing to pay for them.
It's about creating a virtuous cycle where everyone benefits, from the workers on the ground to the clients who commission the projects.
It's a compelling vision, and it makes me wonder if there are any real-world examples of this happening, of clients actually pushing for a more ethical and sustainable approach. So for you, what was the biggest takeaway from the crack?
For me, it's the emphasis on mindset. Like, it's not just about changing policies or bringing in new tech. It's about challenging those deeply ingrained beliefs that have shaped the industry.
That's a good point. We can get so stuck in our ways of doing things, even when we know there might be a better way.
Exactly. And that's where those what-if questions are so powerful. They shake us out of our routines and force us to confront those old assumptions.
You know, it's funny, Mark Anthony actually talks about how demolition is, at its heart, all about turning visions into reality, taking an idea and making it tangible.
Right, like transforming a blueprint into a building.
And he's saying, why not apply that same creativity to building a better industry itself?
It's not just about bricks and mortar. It's about building a better future for everyone involved.
Exactly. So to recap, we're talking about inclusivity, worker well-being, transparency, safety as the absolute bare minimum.
Yep. Leveraging technology, rethinking education, even holding clients accountable for their role in shaping the industry.
And Mark Anthony ends the crack with this powerful call to action. He says, what if this monologue wasn't just words, but a call to action? What if the conversation sparked today became the policies of tomorrow? What if we stopped waiting for change and started being the change?
He's really challenging us to step up, to take ownership. It's not enough to just talk about change. We have to actually make it happen.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with this question. What small change could you make in your own work or life that embodies that what-if spirit, that contributes to a better future for everyone?
It's a question we should all be asking ourselves every day, because the future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we create. One choice, one action, one what if at a time.
Well said. That's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been a fascinating exploration of what ifs, and I hope it's inspired our listeners to start asking those questions, challenging the status quo, and believing in the power of possibility.